Finally, a few notes on formatting and especially naming conventions. These conventions are rules that we suggest you follow and rules that we follow in the examples that you will see. However, if you don't follow them, you will not end up having compile time errors. These rules just make it so that the code that we write is easier to read. For instance, if a programmer after you goes to understand what you have written down in your own program and tries to extend it and so forth, it will find it easier to read your code because these conventions are widely followed, widely accepted. When we are declaring a variable, the name identifier that we are going to give to that variable should be written in lower camel case. For instance, suppose we are writing a class named car and we declare inside that class a variable called max speed. The name max speed should appear as you see it on your screen. It should all be one word, no spaces in between, and the only capital letter should be the letter S for speed. On the other hand, if we want to declare a class, if we are writing a class, the class name should be in upper camel case. For example, suppose we're writing a banking account class. The first letter of the class should be capital. And also recall the other rule, which is not just a convention, it is a rule that we need to follow. The name of the class should be exactly the same as the name of the file that we are storing that class. So this particular class should be stored inside a file named bankingaccount.java. Finally, if we are declaring constants, then those names for the constants should be in uppercase. For example, the avocado number. Constants are like variables, the difference is that their value cannot change. In max speed, which is just a variable, we could be giving it different values depending on the maximum speed of a particular car object at different times. However, a constant will only have one value all of its lifetime. Another rule that we follow in the examples that you will see throughout the course is that we always put the open curly at the end of the line. Recall the example that we saw with Hello World. We wrote public class Hello World and then we had the open curly at the same line. Another convention is that you can put the open curly right below on the second line after that. Same thing with the method name. We wrote public static void main parenthesis string args and then we put the curly again at the end of the line. You could also see it with the curly right below the method header. If, for example, in APCS style code and in samples, you will most likely see the curly right below the method name or the class name. This is not the convention that we are using in this class and in the programs that you will see in this class. The open curly is always at the end of the line. Now, either way you do it, obviously, does not create any kind of error. It is again a convention on how the code would look like. It will not create any compile time errors either way you do it. Another strong recommendation is that we should be using consistent indentation. For example, four blanks. This is where do we use indentation? Every time that we have a new block, you can think in your mind, then we indent it even further inside. For example, we have the class. When we started the method, we went 4 blocks inside. If we had another block of code, another curly braces code inside the method, we would start it even further, as we will do in many other examples. Indentation is not necessary at all for avoiding compile time errors. Even if we had no indentation, no white spaces between different lines, for example, we would not have mistakes, errors. However, it makes much more sense to have indentation so that it is easier to read and understand the code. We have compiled Java formatting guidelines that you're strongly recommended to take a look. It has many more details. I only mentioned here things from the guidelines that we can understand so far. As we go through the course and we will know more and more Java structures, keep on looking at the guide so that you know what kind of guidelines to use with new Java features.